Hi, I'm George the Weather Dad, and today's weather classroom was inspired by Daniel, where he asked me the other day about hailstones and how do they form. Well, since we're in the summer months, now's a good time to talk about them. But first, let's take away a myth. Hail and sleet, even though they're both frozen water, the mechanisms that produce hail and sleet are completely opposite. In fact, sleet usually shows up during the winter months, where hail usually in the summer months. In any given thunderstorm that's producing hail, we can have different sizes of hailstones. You can see one here almost the size of a ping pong ball, about 1.5 inches in diameter, surrounded by much smaller ones. Normally in a storm that's producing hail, we see mainly pea or marble size, but they can grow to much larger sizes. In fact, when they get to about the size of a quarter, that's the criteria where the National Weather Service now classifies that storm as a severe thunderstorm, because hail the size of a quarter and larger can create a lot of damage. So to start with, we need one of these. We need a supercell thunderstorm that has a lot of circulation within it. And when they're that large, they have a strong updraft and a strong downdraft. The updraft takes the water particles and pushes them above the freezing line. When that happens, they become very sticky and they start running into each other and they start collecting. At some point, this thunderstorm can no longer support the weight of that stone, and then it falls down. In fact, this is pretty much what we end up with. But also, when they collect and get to a certain size, in fact, in this case, a baseball size, you can see a lot of little ones coming together for that baseball size hail, and then that can cause a lot of damage. Also, they could form and become rather majestic, almost looking like Christmas ornaments. But on July 23rd, 2010, in Vivian, South Dakota, this monster developed. 8 inches across and weighing almost 2 pounds. And you can see a lot of little ones coming together to create this monster. And that's one way a stone can actually form. But there's another way as well. In that thunderstorm, again, we have updrafts and downdrafts. And sometimes it'll take that water particle up, again, freeze it, and then bring it back down. When it drops below the freezing level, the outer layer melts a little bit, goes back up, and then refreezes and gets a little bit larger. This can happen numerous times until, again, this thunderstorm can no longer support the weight, and then it falls down and we get something like this. So when you see a hailstone like that, you can actually count the rings to see how many times this beast went up and down, above and below the freezing line before it came crashing down. When we get hailstones that big, it can cause a lot of damage. Here in the urban areas, we can see hundreds of millions of dollars worth of damage when the hailstones get that large. Now, the rural areas aren't exempt either. You can take a cornfield like this and end up looking like this after a hailstorm. So when you have a severe thunderstorm producing a lot of hail like this, it's not to take lightly, and take shelter. Thanks, Daniel, for that weather question. That's today's weather classroom. I'm George, the Weather Dad.